Hello and welcome to the Ramblings of a 42-Year-Old Man. Chris Smith here with you, and we're going to do our weekly roundup for this week. A lot of movies this week, not a whole lot on the book or the video game front, but did watch quite a few on the movie front this week. We'll cover a couple podcasts, and then we'll get into some sports news. My Texans played last night. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end, and then we'll wrap it up for the week. So this is my weekly review as of, what is today, August 11th. We'll start up with all the movies I've been watching, including first-time watch of Top Gun Maverick, which was an amazing movie, by the way.
Pumping in 3, 2, 1. Bombs away.
Bullseye, holy shit!
All right, so fist pumping action. Top Gun Maverick was definitely an amazing watch. I don't know why it took us over a year to watch it, but we finally put it on a few days ago, and yeah, it just blew us away. Even the kids, at first, they were a little kind of still looking at the phones and stuff. But by about halfway through, when Tom Cruise is flying all over the place and showing these guys how to fly the airplane mission and everything, yeah, they were into it. And it's a very intense movie. I was tensed up for quite a bit of it. Or my wife said she was too. But yeah, really good, really good. Right from the beginning of the movie, when that music kicked in, the kind of the bong sound, and then you kind of have the Faltermeyer score from the original. That was kind of like, oh man, kind of got you in the mood right there. And then Danger Zone pops up, and you feel like you're watching the original. And then yeah, it goes its own way. But I'm not going to have much to say about the movie. Hopefully by this time it's been out for over a year. You've either seen it or you haven't. But I will say, if you've been holding on to the fence for any reason at all, it's amazing. It is absolutely great, and we had a great time watching it. Like I said, both my kids got into it too, so it's family friendly enough. There's no, a little language here or there, because you're talking about military and stuff. That's kind of always going to fly out there, but not a whole lot, honestly. And yeah, that really good family movie with some tenseness in it, but nothing that would be too scary for kids. So very good. Loved it a lot, and that was definitely the best movie that I've seen in quite a bit. This will definitely be probably my top 5 for the year at this point. But yeah, loved it quite a bit. And then we also watched The Flash, which came out just a little bit earlier this year. So this one we didn't wait quite as long to watch. Now, The Flash is taking a lot of heat for not being very good. The CGI is being really funky, and I'll admit there's a little bit of that too. But honestly, we didn't find it nearly as bad as everybody said it was. It was enjoyable. It wasn't great. It wasn't... I think we watched this one the day before Top Gun, and yes, Top Gun blows us out of the water. But it was an enjoyable enough movie. I think Ezra Miller did a great job with his role, and I know he's a problematic actor at this moment, but I think he did a good job, his acting skills in this movie, playing the two different versions of himself. Now, I will say that is where some of the CG-ness comes in. When you've got a character playing two characters in a movie, a lot of times, I don't know what you call the technique, but the technique that the filmmakers will use will be kind of like overlapping, where they'll play a scene with the one character, they'll play a scene with the second character, they'll put the scenes together so you can see them both. But here, it seems like the choice was always to have one of the berries be CG, which made it really kind of funky because you could tell. It wasn't like the CG was so good that you thought it was good. It was off. And so every time there were two berries, you look at one and be like, that's a fake berry. You know, you could tell that even my son was like, that one looks fake. And that's kind of unfortunate, but you know, the performances still stood out pretty well for Ezra Miller. Michael Keaton, of course, is in this. No spoilers, is all over the trailers for it. And it was really great seeing him in the Batman costume. I really enjoyed that. He looked great doing it. I'm sure they had a stunt performer doing all the Batman suit stunt work, but he still looked good in the suit doing his stuff. And, of course, Michael Keaton is still an amazing actor, even at his age now. When I think of Batman, that's who I think of Batman, Michael Keaton, you know, Batman. But the Supergirl, I think it's Sarah Kylie, however, well, you got that double L in there, so I'm assuming it's the Kaye sound, but Supergirl was great, but not enough. She was only in it for a very, very short time. I would love to see more with her. Being that the DC movies are going through a radical changeover right now to James Gunn, I don't know if we'll see her again, which is unfortunate because I think she did a good job as a character in the limited time that she had. All right, so those are kind of the two main movies that we watched as a family together. There's a few, movies that I did on my own, including a little underseen horror movie I had never heard about, but I was flipping through Prime and saw this called Hostile. And this starts off as kind of your generic post-apocalyptic. There's a woman kind of driving through this desert wasteland. There's creatures that attack, and she's trying to find food and stuff. Evidently, she has like a base that she lives in, but then she comes out scouting for food and stuff. And so the beginning of it is very, very kind of generic when you got these post-apocalyptic movies. But then she gets into this car crash. She crashes her Jeep that she's driving in, and she's stuck. She's broken her leg. She can't get out. Darkness comes, and after dark, her people that she's in contact with at the home base will not come out to get her because of these creatures that come out in the dark. And then we start getting flashbacks. And it's funny because at the beginning, I'm like, oh, okay, flashbacks to see her past. We'll probably have a couple of these throughout the movie. But I would say from about the 10-minute mark on, there is more flashback than actual present stuff. And the flashback stuff is actually pretty much a romantic drama for the most part. That really gives you her backstory, the man that she fell in love with, and kind of by the end of the movie, it does tie into the present day events in a really, really kind of heartbreaking way. And I would say that made this movie really stand out to me versus other, post-apocalyptic horror fare I've seen. I very rarely would see like a post-apocalyptic horror movie and romantic drama plugged in together. And especially one that actually works at the end where everything comes together and for a really satisfying conclusion. So this is Hostile, and you can find this on Amazon Prime. Definitely not grossly horror. I mean, it's definitely horror adjacent. There's a creature in here that's a little freaky, but really the romantic drama part of it is the majority of the movie, and the tie-in with the horror elements at the end are really well done. So anybody interested in anything that sounds like that, I definitely would look this one up on Amazon Prime. I also got into a little bit of a found footage feeling over the last weekend, I believe. I like found footage movies. I might have to do like a found footage episode sometime just because I really do like them. And there's some gems out there, Grave Encounters being one that maybe people hadn't heard of. Hell House LLC is a really good one. So I'd kind of been looking up like what are other found footage movies that people like that I haven't necessarily caught. And I saw on a lot of these top like 25, 40 lists this movie called The Tunnel out of Australia. So I picked this up I think it's on Tubi. It was on Tubi, so you have to watch some ads every now and then, unfortunately. But that's all right. I mean, it's like watching. Kind of reminds me of watching a midnight movie on TNT or something. It's kind of the vibe you get when you do Tubi with these horror movies. And so this one takes like a journalism crew is going down to these underground tunnels in Australia because it has been said that there's homeless people that live down there and they're getting forced out because somebody wants to use the water reservoirs down there for something. And anyway, they find a YouTube clip of there's something down there that they want to investigate. So they go down there, investigate, and of course they get somebody disappears in the tunnel. They gotta try to find them. They get lost in the tunnel. There's creatures in the tunnel. Small spoiler there, but I mean, otherwise, what do you think you're watching a horror movie about this? And it was good. It was impressive. It was when you got kind of this. Australia has another really good. Actually, I think it's New Zealand has a really good one, Lake Mungo. This is similar to that, where there's interview segments with the characters, kind of dispersed between the footage that they had. The only thing that I would say about that is, they're interviewing of the four. No, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3 of the four. Yeah, of the four people that go down there, they're interviewing 2 of them. So pretty much from the beginning that these 2 survive and the other 2 don't. Otherwise, how are they doing the interviews with just these 2 people? So it takes a little bit of the suspense away of, okay, well, they're making it. We know they're going to make it. We know that one probably is not going to make it. So you're just waiting for that shoe to drop. So that's the one thing I would say undercuts it a little bit. Otherwise, it was a fairly effective, creepy found footage movie. But yeah, this undercut a little bit by the fact that you know who's going to survive and who's not. The other found footage one I pulled out was called Butterfly Kisses. I found this one on Tubi as well. Actually, this one might have been on Prime. I'm going to say Tubi. I think it was Tubi as well. This one was centered around the urban legend of Peeping Tom, where if you stare down this tunnel for like an hour without blinking, you'll start having visions of this character called Peeping Tom. And then every time you blink from then on out, he gets closer and closer and closer to you. They'll finally, when he gets right up to you, you die. So almost like a Ring, like a little bit of the Ring. This one less effective than the tunnel. It was definitely, possibly, I don't know what the budgets for either. I mean, these found footage movies are usually very low budget, but this one just felt the acting wasn't quite as good. The characters just weren't quite as compelling, but it was also kind of that same. It's not just found footage. It's we're making a documentary, so we're interviewing people, and then we're interviewing the guy who found this footage, who's putting the footage together. So there's a little bit of a different twist on it too, and then that person kind of starts to go insane a little bit. So it's almost, along with this urban legend that we got, we also kind of seen the mental decline of this one character. So that part was pretty good. But yeah, the overall of this one, this was a lesser movie than The Tunnel, but still, I really enjoy these found footage kind of movies, so I still found enjoyment in watching it. Then the last movie that I kind of picked up during this week was called Glorious. This was directed by Rebecca McKendry, who hosts a podcast I like to listen to that I'll talk about one of these days when I talk about podcasts. And so this one was kind of very, very low budget, very small. It's pretty much one character in a bathroom for the majority of the movie, but he's talking to this almost demonic entity that's in a stall next to him, and they're locked in this bathroom together. Ryan Quanten is pretty much the one actor we got. You probably would know him from True Blood, most famously. Dead Silence, one of the older James Wan movies he was in. I like him as an actor a lot. I actually liked him in this movie as well, too. I thought he really held his own, considering he's pretty much acting against himself and the voice of J.K. Simmons, who is pretty much playing whatever entity it is that's in that stall that we really don't get a look at other than a quick shot at the end. We finally do. But yeah, this is definitely almost like a one-person play, you could kind of put it as. And for this ultra low budget movie, I'm really well directed, really well acted. Everybody giving all the special effects that we get with some blood and some creepiness of the creature when we finally do see him were well done. So this one was good. It would definitely be hit or miss depending on what kind of horror movies that you're into. I like a lot of horror movies, so there's something small and contained like this was really good for me. But you may find your enjoyment of it different than mine, but I like that one quite a bit. So that's kind of it for the movie front. Like I said, I had a lot of movies this week, but we'll cover a couple other things as we go forward of the few books and music and stuff that I listen to throughout the week next. On the book front, I did not read or listen to any books this week. Sorry. I was listening to some podcasts. This week was back to school week with the kids, so I was home a lot, even though I was kind of working from home, running around to meet the teachers in one school, running to meet the teachers at the other school, then getting the kids ready to go. So just not a whole lot of time to just sit down and read or even listen to things when I'm at work, because I was just kind of all over the place. That being said, I listen to some podcasts that we'll talk about on the podcast feed. And when it does come to books, so one thing I do want to kind of point out for books is a book that I'm very interested in reading. Have not yet, but I will be getting soon. This just was released on August 8th, and it is called 101 Horror Novels to Read Before You Are Murdered. And this is by Sadie Hartman, and what I'm really excited about this is to see how many of these books have I already read or listened to, and which ones have I not, so that I can, because I'm always looking for books to want to listen or read that I haven't already. And I'm thinking, I doubt that I've read all 101 books in this thing, so I'm very, very curious to see what ones are in there that I haven't, read about why I should, and probably give a lot of them a shot. Maybe I'll make myself a little checklist until I get to 101. Who knows? It's a lot of work, but we'll see. But yeah, other than that, that's kind of all I got for books. Hopefully I'll be able to pick that up soon and read through that, but I'll probably be jumping back on books again next week as things get a little more back to normal here in the house. Let's talk about music and podcasts next. All right, music-wise, not a lot on the music listening front. I have listened to quite a few podcasts, though. That's kind of what I did this week instead of listening to the audiobooks. Losers Club is a big one that I've listened to for years now. I am a Stephen King fan because, I'm a horror novel fan. Of course, I'm a Stephen King fan. The Losers Club podcast, they cover every Stephen King book, every Stephen King movie adaptation, TV adaptation, everything chronologically. And of course, as new stuff comes out, they also kind of cover the new things when they come out as well. But they started with Carrie, 1970 something, 1960 something, whatever year that was that Carrie came out. They started with that and have done a review of each of the books, all the way up to right now. They are at Under the Dome, which is a 2009 book. So we're talking from the 70s up to 2009 now. They've talked about every single Stephen King book. And it's fun listening to. I have read all the Stephen Kings or listened to them on audio a lot of the times. And so I really enjoy hearing their kind of critical analysis of a lot of these books and stuff. And usually there's multiple episodes on some of these bigger ones. Like I think Under the Dome is now on episode 3 because it's such a huge book and there's so much that they want to talk about on it. That's understandable. I think it was like a 3-episode one, so they really go in depth with these books. And it's a lot of fun to listen to. Now the same group, or some of the people from the same group, have kind of branched out into a second podcast called Halloweenies. And Halloweenies is basically they look at movie franchises and kind of talk about them each movie at a time. Every year they do a different franchise. So 4 or 5 years ago they started with the Halloween franchise, which is how they became Halloweenies, and they talked about all the Halloween movies. Anybody who knows me knows Halloween, my favorite series, not just horror series, but my favorite series period of movies. Even though the majority of them aren't good, but I still love them. I still love Michael Myers. Halloween 1 and 2 were the first movies that ever scared the heck out of me when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and never looked back. But so they start with that. They did a year on Friday the 13th, a year on Nightmare on Elm Street, a year on Scream, a year on Evil Dead, and this year they are doing the Chucky series. So they're up to Seed of Chucky, which I think is the 5th movie of the series. And then they'll be going through Curse and Cult and the TV series before they finish up for the year. And that's how they do every year. And, if there's not like Scream was at the time that they were doing it was 5 movies because even the 6th movie hadn't come out yet. I think they covered it like right at the end of their season. So they'll sprinkle other things kind of in between some of the movie episodes of maybe things that were inspired by Scream or things that were that have like maybe similar direction style and stuff like that, and they'll kind of spread it out. So they usually do about like one good episode a month on these movies. So that's kind of podcast listening that I've been doing, and let's see what we're going to do next. So let's look at games. Not a whole lot in the game world, but we'll talk about that next. All right, so on the game side of things, I finished up Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the original one, and I went ahead and started Knights of the Old Republic 2. Both of these I have downloaded on the Switch, and I played through maybe the first hour, 2 hours of the second one at this point. Great games. Pretty much the first Star Wars games that came out that really, really felt like strong Star Wars games. This was before we had, Jedi Fallen Orders, before we had Battlefield or Battlefront, whatever they call those ones. So this was kind of that first wow, Star Wars is a good video game. We've had some not so good ones before. Even on Super Nintendo, we had some solid ones. The Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi back on the Super Nintendo days. Those are fun. But talking about modern day games, these ones were on the original Xbox, I believe, is when they first came out. So I believe I've only played Knights of the Old Republic 2 once before, so this will all be pretty good. I'm playing through it and I don't really remember a whole lot of it, so that's good. It'll be like playing through a new game. That being said, that's kind of it for games. I have started up Final Fantasy 6 again, but I'm just going through that slowly whenever I have time, just for fun, just to see it again because I love the characters. I'm probably overall maybe like 3-4 hours into that game, but anyway, a lot of fun as always. This is my favorite game of all time. I could pick that up at any time and play through it. All right, we'll get into a little bit of sports. We actually have some news for sports. There's a reason I'm wearing this shirt, and we'll talk about that next.
Shrek in motion. First and goal, Houston. Mills looking to the end zone. Dell juggling. Karams. It is a... Did he have his feet in? Yes! Touchdown! Tank Dell with a juggling act in the end zone. Gets the...
All right, so yes, Texans played last night. Not only did they play, but they won preseason, so you take that as it is. But hey, a win on anything is better than a loss on anything. So I'm plenty happy to have that. So I will say, C.J. Stroud, the new quarterback, came out, looked pretty rough his first couple drives. I think that's just getting some jitters out. His offensive line was not great in front of him, unfortunately. But again, we had mostly backups. I think we had our starting left guard and starting center. And even our starting center, our actual starting center got injured, so we kind of have our backup center. So of our offensive line, one of those it's probably going to be like our true starting offensive line. The rest of them were all filling in because either somebody wasn't playing, because it's the first preseason game of the year. You get that a lot. So C.J. Stroud was not behind his actual offensive line that he will have the majority of the year. So not surprising that he had a lot of pressure. I will say he did a pretty good job of trying to get out of pressure a couple times. He had the one interception that he had was pretty much, it was a great route. He was throwing the right place, but I think he looked at the receiver a little too long, and that safety jumped out there and got the interception. That's going to happen in the NFL. Secondary players are a lot faster here than they are in college, so he will get used to that speed. Honestly, not that I say I want interceptions, but I like that he would face some adversity maybe a little early so he could grow from it, and I think he will. So I think we'll see good things there. I was surprised at how good Davis Mills played. He's been in the league now 3 years, so he's got some experience under his belt. He's looked pretty good. I don't think he's supplanting C.J. Stroud as a starter. I think we are going to go with the younger guy, but I do think that he's a very serviceable backup. If there's a QB-hungry team out there who looks at his tape and says, you know what, we could use him, maybe we can get some trade value out of him as well. Case Keenum came in and looked good. I mean, he's got tons of experience. We've had him on the team, years before as well. I'm glad to see him out there. He'll be a good mentor for C.J. Stroud going forward. The biggest highlight, I think, on offense, Tank Dell. That video you saw of him making the crazy touchdown catch, that was pretty awesome. He ends up the day with 5 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown, which he only played in the first half. That is pretty darn good. Excited about that. I hope that we see more of that. I hope we see a lot of that during the regular season. I think he's going to be a bright spot in that offense. Now, on the defensive side, I was really impressed with the defense as a whole. I mean, they held the Patriots to 3 points up until like the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter when they let kind of a mobile quarterback came in. Malik Cunningham came in for the Patriots as their like second or third string quarterback and did do a lot of running on them. So passing wise, there wasn't a whole lot there, but mobile quarterbacks, we play Lamar Jackson first week of the season. So hopefully we can kind of get on top of that by the time we roll into that game. But other than that, I was really impressed with defense, really impressed. So 20 to 9, I will take that. Like I said, it's preseason, so you never know. You could be undefeated in the preseason and not win a single game in the regular season. It doesn't mean anything. But it is nice to see these players, making strides and stuff. So I'm hopeful that next week we'll see even more of C.J. Stroud. He was only out there for 2 series, so we really didn't get a whole lot of looks at him. Hopefully maybe we'll get a little bit more of the starting people in there to see what our team actually might look like in the regular season. But I'm happy, 20 to 9 win. Good start for preseason. This was the first game of preseason other than the Hall of Fame game last week. Minnesota-Seattle was right afterwards, but I think Seattle won that one, and then we'll have a whole slate of games over the weekend. So NFL's back. Very excited. I know David's very excited too. We'll probably have him on here to do some talking during the season. I'm sure he loves to talk about football, so we'll be doing that. And other quick sports news, the only other thing I really got, U.S. women's national team of soccer got knocked out of the World Cup in the first game of the knockout stage, which is surprising to say the least. They didn't look great in the group stage, so it's maybe not that surprising from the way that they played, but definitely we expected more from them, as we always do. They're always so good. So we'll see. Hopefully they can turn around. I think it is time for maybe a little bit more youth. I know this is Megan Rapinoe's last World Cup. I hope Alex Morgan's still going. Alex Morgan's still playing at a high level, I feel. But I think there's a youth movement going to be happening in the world's U.S. women's team. Get that out. And we'll see how that goes. But I haven't been. But all of their games in this World Cup were really late at night because they're playing in. I don't even know where the heck the World Cup is. All I know is that they played really late. Like the game started at like 9. By then, I'm already putting the kids to bed and stuff. So I didn't actually watch them, so I can't really say what it was that they did good or bad. But I do think that there's going to be youth movement going forward, and we'll see how they do from there. So that's Sports Minute, which I knew took a little bit longer, but as the Texans start playing, I'm going to start talking. So that being said, that's kind of our rambles for this week. That's what I got. We'll go into next week, and we'll probably have some more books and more movies and everything else to talk about. But thank you for watching it always, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you now. Bye.